Alright, I just got the block back from the machine shop. Putting the bearings in, and I'm going to check the clearance. Hopefully these stock size bearings will have enough clearance. I'm shooting for 3,000s. It's bored now to 4160. I oversized these clearance holes for the stroke and the block, so hopefully I won't have to shave down the bolt heads. I'm going to put the crank in here and just check the clearance and see where I sit. Right there at about close to 2,000s. These bearings also have that coating on them, so that'll be another line of defense. Check main cap. For the thrust, check that one. So they're all really about 2,000s. You know, depending on where you're checking from. It's definitely not 3,000, so. I'm on my way to Summit Racing Saturday morning. 2,000s clearance in the bearings. It's just not going to cut it. So I'm going to have to go get a 1,000s oversized bearing. I can return the rod bearings, and I've got a carb spacer that I can return. So I'm going to return these jewels. Return those, get the proper bearings, and then finish up the build. Alright, after going and getting another set of bearings, measure the gap, and it's right there at 3,000s now, so I'm happy with that. There's that one. So that's right where I want it, about 3,000s. So now I've just got to check the end play. Probably gonna have to sand down the thrush washer just a little bit. What about 9,000s of end play on this one? Do a little bit of sanding on a wet stone. Knock it down. It's about 6,000s right now, so knock it down about 4,000s or so. So pull the crank out, go ahead and work on that thrust bearing for a minute, and then check the end play. Alright, I'm sitting at about 8,500s on the end play. I'm good with that. So this thing's ready to get the crank put in there for good, or well, for a little while at least. Getting ready to put the thrust bearing on. The only thing you have to do before that is put some anaerobic sealer on it, and I put a little bit of silicone right there on the edge of the rear main seal, and I'll also offset the seal just a little bit so there's not a parting line on top of the bearing parting line. So this thing's ready to go on. Got some assembly lube on here. That should just slide right on. Yep, like that. So it's all ready to go. Torque it down. Go 45 on the little bolts. 1/2 inch bolts, 65 foot-pounds. And then I will recheck the end plate just to make sure it's at least 8 thousandths. And then the crank should be good after that. Just check everything over, and hopefully I'll have to take this crank back out. Here's one of the most fun parts of an engine build, gapping the rings. Takes quite a while, a few hours. These will be get up to 33 thousandths, top and second ring, both 33 thousandths. Then the oil rings are 15 thousandths. Got a little hand file here. Gonna put on some tunes and do some filing. After about 15 minutes of filing, I have the first ring at 33 thousandths. There's only 15 more to go. dial indicator. Got it set right here on 0. And now I'm going to just adjust my timing pointer a little bit. It'll move right there. Set it right on 0, right there. I'm gonna lock that down. Throw the lifters in, and then go ahead and slap the heads on. I've got a measurement for how far the crank sticks down from the gasket surface of the oil pan. So I'm gonna run about 3/4 of an inch below for the windage tray. So I'll weld that into the oil pan. I'm just gonna use this mesh, bend it to a radius. It'll sit in there about 3/4 or so below the rotating assembly. So hopefully that'll help with the windage. And lock down that pointer and go ahead and start getting ready to throw the heads on. Alright, the valve train is set up. I don't have the lash set or anything. I'll deal with that later. Got these valve covers set on here. Probably use some different ones. I don't need this wire loom anymore because I'm going to be running coil on plug or coil near plug. So the coils will be somewhere over here, or back here on the actual bar, maybe here and over there on the other side, out of the way. It's coming along, just about done. Still got to do the oil pan, the windage tray. Once I get that on there and do a little paint, this engine's gonna be ready to go back in the car. Alright, I have the windage tray welded in. I do a good bit of clearancing here for the rotating assembly to come around. It was scraping here on the right here. So just make sure to clearance it. I dry fit it without the gasket, turn the whole motor over, and nothing was hitting. So whenever I put the gasket on, that'll give it roughly 1/4 of an inch out. So there will be even more clearance than whenever it was fit directly to the mating surface. So I'll be pretty confident that there isn't going to be any contact. Took a good bit of persuading to get this thing where it needs to be. Yeah, so looks like I'll have to do something for the dipstick here. This doesn't look like a dipstick is gonna fit in there anymore. So we'll figure something out. I don't know. I might. I don't know. We'll see. some people are in like a sight glass on the side so you can see, you know, how much oil is in there without actually needing a dipstick, because the dipstick on this thing it's never worked very well. It's always leaked and it's never had a good seal. It's just not been a fun experience. So I'll figure something out on that. Got the pan glued on here, and surprisingly, the dipstick actually fits in here. It goes all the way down. I just took a screwdriver and kind of made like a 1/16 of an inch little valley right there in the windage tray. And the dipstick, it's actually a lot stiffer than it normally is as far as, you know, actually staying in place. That doesn't mean that it's not going to leak. You know, I tried some O-rings and things like that. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to take this block off. Go ahead and paint the block. I'm probably going to paint the pan as well, because I've got all these spots where the galvanize is burnt off, so that'll start rusting. Got to get a oil filter. Got to get some more studs for the motor plate to go in the back of the block. I just get those from the local hardware store. They're pretty much like this, except for a little bit bigger. Makes it really easy to pull the transmission because the motor can just stay in place and it doesn't move. You just pull the transmission out, but it does make it a little bit harder to put the engine in, because you gotta make sure that the converter lines up before you put the motor in. So that'll be the next thing to do after everything's painted up and all, is go ahead and well, clean up in here. Actually, it's quite a mess. I have to move this table, get everything organized so I can get the cherry picker in from outside, and then get ready to put this motor in there. And then there's the other, you know, fitting up the exhaust and installing turbos and all that, and then can knock out the front wiring for the engine, injectors, sensors, and all that fun stuff, coils. I still don't even have mounts for the coils, so still plenty left to do. You know, got a couple more things need to order yet before I can even get this thing ready to fire. So still a few weeks left to go.